Whew. Let's close this. Let's open that. So actually pretty simple stuff is, I don't know how aware you are how these numbers are managed, but basically in the old navigation, a lot of these numbers are basically just updated by directly manipulating them. So they are loaded like on load, and then you have like certain scripts like, mark is done, added to do, that just update those numbers straight away, like directly manipulating that stuff, right? The new navigation being a view app doesn't necessarily have the same selectors. So on the MR view, we're actually running into a bug because, if you merge MR, write a comment in MR, it tries to update these counts, but the stuff just doesn't exist, and so it doesn't get updated, right? So what's interesting about this thing that updates the MR view is, so this is already the new code. So it actually calls the API, gets the numbers for assigned and review requests, and updates the DOM elements. So why don't we do it smarter in the new sidebar, right? And so I've already put an MR together with which does the following. It's just like a little state management thingy. I think we're probably going to want to do some cleanup at some point with the state management, because I think we already have 3 or 4 state managements in the new UI, but I chose to go with just, a view observable having an object that is reactive. This is still to be discussed and not what I want to talk about, just wanted to give some context, right? What's pretty cool actually about the solution that is already here is that if you do something on MR and have multiple tabs open, it actually updates the numbers in the other tabs, right? So it uses a broadcast channel. I stole that idea, which is pretty cool, because if you just, are on the to-do list, mark all is done, switch over, and it didn't work. That's funny.
Oh no! Mark all is done. Oh, it didn't. It did. It took some time, right? Did it do it or not really?
Wait, it could be that the mark all done feature is like problematic. No, I actually know what it is, because to-dos is the thing that I want to look into with you all, right? That's the thing. The to-dos doesn't work. But as an example, if I have 6 MRs, right? And if I unassign myself, count should go to 5. Good. Isn't there like a law for this? Like how do you call it?
The demoing thing's not working.
Let me just assign myself again here. Cool. Reviewer. If I reload this, 6. Okay, at least that works. Okay. So if you reload a page, it broadcasts its numbers to the other pages, and at least that works. So there is a bug somewhere. Good. Doesn't really matter. The big problem that I wanted to look into is for updating to the to-dos, we have to-do toggle. So we have a to-do toggle event. And now my idea was, so basically the to-do toggle event also sends the new count, right? The new count for to-dos. The problem is that the same event is used for multiple use cases. So in one use case, people send like an optimistic update. So for example, if you click the mark as done button, the counter goes down, and then the API calls are made that actually, would resolve the to-do. And in other cases, the call is made and the to-do toggle event is fired. Yes. And so I actually wanted to untangle it. And there's another use case. So for example, on this view, it kind of makes sense that the to-do toggle count is sending like the absolute numbers. But if you look at to-do toggle, let me just look which file it was. To-dos, update badges, add event. Yeah, so in other cases, you can see that we are basically querying the existing to-dos count, right? Then we're adding or removing one, and then we send a new number, while in the place where we actually consume the whole thing, which is here, we are parsing the to-do count again, right? So this is just a little bit, why wouldn't you, in this case, for example, send a diff, right? Anyway, that's like, and this is just the stuff that I wanted to look at with the different to-do toggles and how to unwind it. And yeah.
Updated. Yeah.
See, this is just like fun, right? Like fun stuff. Like, hey, we're parsing the stuff here, adding or removing one. Yeah. And so, yeah. And then even in some cases, again, with the new custom event, I'm just like,
we have two listeners too.
Yeah, the one listener is in the new nav and the other listener is in the old nav, right? Okay. Like, yeah. You can see here, I'm already, so here you can see that the logic is basically the same. While in one, we're updating, the real deal in the old nav, and with the other, we are updating just the data in the store, and then it gets rendered properly.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah, this is me talking 8 minutes about this.
No.
Yeah.
I remember like we've run into there's so many issues here. Like even like I remember running into one of my first months at GitLab, picking up an issue regarding when the to-dos have reached like past 1,000 or something, and somehow that affected the rendering of it. Like all of it is doing some interesting things with JavaScript numbers and reading from the DOM. And
yeah.
So the goal is right now, the bug you're observing is we need to get this working for the super sidebar.
So the bug that we're observing is actually gone.
Okay.
Because what I've done now is I've basically short circuited. So the new user accounts manager has a new global event. I know we all hate them, but bear with me for a second. It has a new global event that just does, we're listening to the event, and if that happens, actually this same thing as here happens, right? Like we're fetching the user accounts from the API, but instead of just updating the APR numbers, we're also updating to-dos and issues, because guess what? The API returns actually everything, right? And the thing that is also a little bit better is that, we are not updating the DOM directly, but we rather, update. Oh, wow, I'm just realizing something. This is funny. So like there's already a bug in the old implementation as well, because the API returns like all the counts, right? And if you have more than 99 issues assigned, we would render 99 plus. But looking at this code, we wouldn't do that, right? Like, so if you have 99 MRs assigned, and these are the subtle bugs that we have, and where like one single source of truth for the data would make sense, right?
Yeah. No, it's definitely, for some reason, it's definitely doing weird stuff. So here's one question for you. Thinking of a user experience, when we update these counts,
yes,
we don't always do a fetch for the new count, do we?
So that's interesting, and this is what I want to untangle on the init toggle to do. So MRs actually seems pretty consistent, because they call refresh MR counts like on all kinds of occasions, right? Like, sidebar assignees, comment form, like, they do it like toggle issue state. I don't know, like they do it like in all kinds. Oh, toggle issues. What? Why is this called toggle issue state? Like, where are we? This is funny. So this is probably even a shared file between MRs and issues.
Form. Oh yeah.
So this is funny, right? Like, so actually toggling the issue state if this
Toggle
issue,
issue
okay, no.
state
Yeah,
if
okay.
it's an issue.
Yeah, but
Yes.
like, for example, if this comment form would be used on epics would update your MR count, right? Because notable type can be more things than just issue or MR. Like, anyway.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Unless is issue is like, that's actually some calculation for it's not an merge request.
Yes.
Anyways, but yes, no, yeah, we can.
Anyway, like, you can see that the updates happen like,
right.
Anyway.
So my concern is, are we concerned about this scenario with the user? I hit a button, which
Yes.
marks a to-do as done.
Yes.
But then I see my to-dos increase by 1 because unbeknownst to me, I actually got 2 new to-dos, but ticked off 1. Are we concerned about that use case at all?
So that's actually an interesting use case because you can see it here. It's funny. You can see this counter updating and this counter updating already. Unfortunately, we have the same counter here, but this is not the core of the problem. But this can happen anytime, right? Like, yeah, I mean, you're right? Like, it would feel weird. I do an action that decreases my to-dos, but my to-dos increase. But on the other hand, if I reload the page or open a new tab, the to-do count is different anyhow, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know if it's a big UX concern.
Well, actually, let's put the 2 scenarios next to each other. One is we don't get the latest counts. All I do is just update the number.
Yeah.
That everything works kind of as a user would expect. You're just not updated with the latest information. But yes, when you visit a new page, there's like, oh, I guess I got new stuff coming.
Yeah.
If we only like refresh these counts when the user is supposed to be decreasing them, that sounds like that could lead to confusing scenarios. I'd almost suggest like, let's just not refetch them. That's
we also have the same, we already have the problem, and I didn't know that, but our multi-to-dos that we have in GitLab org, it's not on yet. It's a feature flag since 13.9 or something. And I wasn't even aware.
Serious? A feature flag since 13.9?
Yeah, something like that. And so we already have that scenario, by the way, where different actions, like you're pinged multiple times in an MR, you write a comment, all the to-dos are gone, but if you click the mark as done button, only one of the to-dos is gone. Like, the behavior is super interesting. Like, and so the counts don't reflect. Anyway, I don't know. It's a good question from a UX perspective. It's a good question. Should we update the counts at all? Right? Like,
I mean, yeah, part of me is like, let's treat like keeping the up to date from the back end.
Yeah.
That's a separate stream than this stream, which is let's just decrease let's post to do is down, update all of our counts, and just call it that a day.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so even if we decide, like, one of the proposals to potentially move to a GraphQL subscription or something, so that the counts are always updated, like in the back end, if something happens, right, you just get the updated numbers. But even then, we would need to untangle the init the toggling of the to-dos and differentiate between the optimistic update that happens before and like the stuff that happens, you know, after an API call.
Yeah. All right.
So cool. That was like a lot of stuff.
What's the to do?
What we want to do?
Yes.
I actually would just want to go through the events and try to understand like which one is which, right? Like because for example, here like dispatch request epic to do is an Axios post, and you know, because so this is, for example, this is funny, right? Like if you toggle a to do on an merge request, it just increases or decreases.
Right.
Here we're toggling a to do on an epic, and we actually seem to be using something that came from the API, right? And so it's just, for me, it would be interesting to look into like these different states, like these different things, right?
Are we saying we kind of want to have one thing so that regardless of what we choose to do, whether we get the real counts, whether we naively update them, whether we have a GraphQL subscription, whatever, like they all do the same thing? I think the confusing thing for me is like clicking mark as done does one thing, clicking the tick on the to-do page might do another thing.
Yes.
Unassigning an epic might do a different thing again. Like if we have one function that says, I have changed the to-dos, go update everything however it is.
Yeah. And so, for example, like my gut feeling is like this seems to update the data with the something that was returned by the API, right? So this is potentially the same as reloading the page, assuming that in that second of reloading the page, nobody else gave you a new to do, right?
Yeah. Can we see what red trigger to do toggle event does?
Yeah, it does just really
trigger.
I
see.
Yeah. So now let's just have a look into and I basically that's the thing that I want to do in this session is I basically just want to go through, and actually talking about it already helped a lot.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see like where are epics merge requests? Where can I find epics?
You have to be in a group,
right? Yeah. So group should be,
or in a, yeah, I think you have to be in a group.
Cool. Groups, and then we have plan. Oh no. Oh shoot, I can I have to be in a real group, right? Like personal groups don't have an.
Wait, is there such a thing as a personal group?
I mean, like you cannot have epics on a personal namespace.
Yes.
Epics, there we have it, right? Cool. In the meantime, let's now just, you know, console log. I mean, we don't even need to log the data, but just out of interest. I reset my GDK this morning, so probably all the pages are compiling. Cool. But that should be a quick one, right? So I have an epic. How do I add it to do for myself in an epic? Is that even possible?
Sure. There's a little button that says add to do.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Cool. So this is actually a GraphQL. Wait, this was a GraphQL query? To do mutation. To do? No. Okay. So this is interesting.
That was a GraphQL post thing.
But here we have, so this is interesting because now the question is, when does toggle to do happen, right? Sidebar to do, epic to do. Wait, what? I'm confused because this, again, do we have a feature flag? Like this is definitely GraphQL.
I think probably, like maybe none of this is actually getting triggered.
To do, like, where is this? I mean, where is this one used? It could also be that it is part of like, do we have like an epics list? Sidebar. Where's this used? Sidebar to do. Oh, cool. A dead component.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is a dead component because
Oh, yes. Let's delete it. Let's delete it. Nice. Let's do it.
I'm using a proper IDE, right? So it shows me when component is just used in the specs.
Yeah. One of those.
Cool. So this just means that we also can remove this action.
Really?
This turned into a refactoring.
Yeah, that's great. Can we? Is nothing references that thing?
I mean, it is referenced in the spec, obviously, and in this component. So
cool. Wow. Yeah, let's delete it. That's great. I'm so excited.
Cool.
Okay. Let's see if we can find more dead code.
Yeah, it's actually, that's an alternative what we can do. We could do a static analysis for this is my second function today that isn't used.
Oh
so
my.
this one
yeah,
is also
yeah. When you're
used.
deep diving into old front end behavior of to-dos, yeah, there's going to be some tissues
users
connected to the rest of the body.
Cool. This one is also not used.
What? Really? I'm starting to question your
IDE.
Yes. If you're not regex searching, like how can you be really certain?
So I mean, you're right. Like, I mean, we.
Uh-oh. I think it got that one right.
I got that one right. Yeah.
The is user signed in. Oh, but is that just an epic specific? Is that just an epic specific state getter thing? Oh, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and that's the reason, like, why in the epics is. I mean, there's epic body. Here we have is user signed in.
I see. So yeah, we got to use that. We got to keep that.
But why?
See, I know if it's signed in.
It's not even used in the component, right?
Well, maybe the user signed out. I'm just joking.
Okay, but this one is basically useless, right? It's a computer that
it certainly seems that way. The only reason way it could show up is if Epic Body actually has an EE version of it. And we happen to use the state there, which would be very unfortunate if that was the case, but
Epic Body obviously is EE itself already.
Oh, got it. Yeah. So we're not even using it. Yeah, we just get rid of it.
Cool. So
nice.
Is user signed in? Let's just see Epic sidebar. Oh, cool. So this one definitely. So sidebar to do widget. Toggle to do. Okay. So they swapped out the to do implementation, right? Like they swapped it out with one that uses GraphQL under the hood. Understood. So we definitely can remove this one, right? Is user signed in seems to be used still. Epic to do toggle in progress. We just want to have a look if this one is like. This seems to be one of those. Oh geez, like Epic to do toggle in progress, map state, sidebar to do.
I think we can get rid of this one.
Yeah. Cool. So how do we do that? This is probably like map state, right? Okay. Okay. Sidebar to do. Epic. Request epic toggle. Request epic toggle. I really love the verbosity of this. It's like it's
Vuex gets very.
So request like epic. I mean, so this is unused. This is unused. This is unused, right?
Yeah.
Map actions. I mean, maybe my IDE doesn't get it, but request epic.
No, I think you can go for it.
Cool. So these can go.
Yeah.
Then these can go.
I guess so.
Oh, trigger issuable events. Everything is unused mutations. These can go.
Sure.
Oh gosh. To do delete. Up. Wait, so this is also in the state, right? Yeah, to do delete path. To do exists.
Well, wait.
Okay.
Are those states not used anywhere?
Nope.
Wow. Yeah. No, it's not used anywhere. Yeah. Let's get rid of it.
Wait, we can also check for this. Okay, sidebar to do, sidebar to do exists. That's the only one.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, that's great.
Cool. And epic to do toggle in progress. The name is fun for that one. It's not a to do toggle that's in progress. It's an epic to do toggle that's in progress.
The epic to do.
Wait, so maybe let's to do path is probably also not needed. Yeah. I just assume because everything that, you know, like moved to be GraphQL.
Yeah.
So we deleted those, sidebar collapsed, everyone else is happy, sidebar to do. Yeah, the usage obviously is the spec. Spec. Cool. So we solved the first to do toggle.
That's great.
Not in the way that we hoped for. And
so can we actually, I mean, it'd be great to commit this and like, you know, create a whole MR just for this little delete dead code bit. But can we pull to the side of the road for a quick second and revisit that GraphQL monument that we drove by quickly?
Yes.
And one curious to see how that is handling
Toggling to-dos.
Updating. Yes.
Yes. So actually in this widget, I had a look at this first, and there you can see, what can you see? So this does a mutation. This is definitely simple, like one Axios request. So create alert. It tracks.
I don't think this is propagating it, right?
Yeah, I mean, that should be easy to see, right? Like we can just
Let's see.
Mark is done. It
is.
is.
How is it?
It has to be faking it because you can't get to do counts from GraphQL. It's just not in the schema. You can get to dos, but you can't get the count.
Yeah. So toggle to do, like stop prevent toggle to do. Okay, what are we doing here? Query props, produce, write query. This is all related to blah, blah, blah. Create alert, disloading false. I know how it's doing it because it has the to-do button. And the to-do button does a global update.
Oh, wait. What?
Yes. So what happens is, wait, is this using the same button? No. You have it. You have sidebar to do widget, which is presumably that thing, which uses a button. And is this, where is this used? So it's also sidebar to do.
I think I see what you're saying. To do button has a side effect of always updating the global to dos.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Can we test something out then?
Yeah.
And the application, can we block the GraphQL URL and then do it? If we right click on the GraphQL URL in your network, you can do it from the network tab, I think.
This should also be good, right?
Yeah, I was gonna simulate like if the GraphQL returned an error. Oh my gosh, does it just keep going? Oh wait, go back. Does it just keep going?
Yeah.
What?
I mean, it's what it's doing, right?
Wait, okay, all right. Wait then. Oh no. All right, can you bring it back and can we reset it? And refresh the page?
Yeah, sure.
All right, click it like a bunch of times. Okay, it's disabling it. I see.
It's disabling it after the first click,
Right
so
away.
that's like, yeah.
Hmm.
I'm not saying that it's not smart, but it's still.
Yeah, the fact that the request can fail is, that's obviously something to be nice to handle appropriately.
Yeah, so that's also the thing, right? Like if the request failed, that's a good point. Yeah, if the request failed, you would like to reset the thing, right? And so one of the things that I was thinking about was, why don't we, in the to-do widget, is this that's a complicated one, right? We have a finally here, right? And the one thing that we could do at the end, now let me just think, because I don't know state. So let's try this out, and I am adding a to-do. And I want to block the GraphQL URL. Yes, cool. Mark is done.
Yeah, it went back.
Yeah. So
I
like,
and I would almost to say though, like, why are we even trying to do it optimistically? Like, we haven't actually marked it as to do until the button shows a loading thing. Like, when all that's done, then
yes,
update the number. That makes the most
I
sense.
think, I mean, to be honest, we do it optimistically, probably. I don't know. Mark is done. Because sometimes this takes quite a while.
Really?
Right? But you're right. I mean, we're actually marking the button to be, yes, you're right. We're actually marking, the button to be loading. So nobody, and what's also funny is, because the counts are now in two different places, actually someone rightfully so complained about it. So if I'm looking at the markers done, I'm clicking the button, I don't even see the update on the left-hand side. While in the old nav, they are right next to each other, right? So like,
it was a big,
like I see it,
yeah.
right? Like I cannot, in a new nav, I cannot focus on both things at the same time.
That's that's a really interesting point.
Yeah, so actually, if the counts update on the left-hand side, right, that's actually better. Edit to do. Yeah, it works. See, it works.
We should have the number 6 like animate out of that button and fly over to the other side of the screen.
That's the way to do it.
No, I think, yeah, it should be an animation. You click here, and then like a little thing, like a whack-a-mole thingy appears, goes to the other side, and slams a hammer on the button, and the number goes down by 1.
That happens if there is a network request and we have to bump the number again. It's like,
yeah,
it went down not peacefully, but then it's like all of a sudden, yeah, it's in your face.
So to be fair, like one reason to do it optimistically, even if we're doing the real fetch afterwards, would be this request can take quite a while. And the second request to get the count again could also take quite a while, right? Like
something's off if this request takes a while. Like I would be, we're not getting all the to-dos. That I can understand that taking some time, but just
getting counts,
posting that this specific to-do is done should be pretty fast.
How long does it take for me here? Like timings, 146 milliseconds. That's long.
I mean, well, we are in.
How long is it on GitLab.com though, where there's a big database with lots of things?
Let's
this long to update.
See, I want to check if like this is actually up to date. No, if some of the polls have time, anyway.
Yeah, I try to add you, but I can't because I'm not an owner of that group. I'm just a maintainer. But I think that we all need to be owners, right?
Yes. Okay, let's see. We have an epic here, right? Okay. GitLab reseller self-quoting. Obviously the one that I want.
Is this this isn't a private thing. This is a fine thing to say.
No.
Okay.
Start date June 2024. This is optimistic thinking. Cool. 326 milliseconds.
That's fine.
Okay. Okay, cool. But anyway, so what would you think we should do? Like, should we just do this?
I feel like my preference, and this is just my preference, but like that's in a state it's in because it is clearly tried to do too much inconsistently all over the place. Like let's solve a simple problem really well and then treat each problem separately. Of keeping the dues to sync with the backend is one separate problem than updating the counts. I'm fine if we want to do the optimistic change. Like that could be a nice to have. But yeah, the maintainability costs you unload on top of that is like, okay, do we care then about being transactional with that update when we got to revert our number increasing when the request actually failed or something? And that's
so the right change here probably in either case would be, wait, is this used in so it's actually used in more than one place, right? So the right change, even if we do the optimistic thingy, the right change would be to actually move it to that GraphQL mutation method, right?
Yeah.
And do the optimistic update before. In case of an error, undo it. Like, I mean, even this error would probably mean to undo it.
Is it possible though that we could yeah, no, totally.
Yeah, I mean, should be possible, right? Like, what happens if I have the page open in two places, I add a to-do, and I add a to-do? Yeah, right.
So go back to the code. I think that there's something, there's a low-hanging fruit here. On the right-hand side, the to-do button component, we get like nothing from that component other than the call to update global to-do count.
Yes.
And on the left-hand side, this is the real meat of we're doing this whole mutation and everything, and that's kind of how we want to do stuff. What if we could create a reusable function that encapsulated the Apollo mutation?
No. The reason I'm saying no is this might as well be the only to-do toggle thing that is related to Apollo. So if we build like a reusable function here, and for example, even here with the catching and stuff in the mutations, probably even here you would need to reset the to-do count, right? Or let's put it differently, you don't even know if you need to reset the to-do count, right? Okay. Like, because this could be an error that says, I don't know what, right? Like it could be an error that actually the to-do was created, but you also, I don't know, whatever, right? Like it could be unrelated to the count of to-dos, that error from GraphQL. This error likely means that the to-do wasn't created, or it could also just mean, hey, I don't know, right? Like,
well, no, I think, well, actually, though, I think the error in 159 would be like a known error we would potentially expect from like somehow you weren't authenticated, like, or something wasn't found or whatever. The other one is like a network error, I think.
So what did it actually say? No, so this is actually the one that we didn't catch, right? Something went wrong.
That's the
so this seems like this one.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. And
you're
right.
Still the thing that I'm saying is like, I don't trust us to
abstract this correctly when there's all.
No, I don't trust us to know about all the possible states in the back end and to make a decision whether it has an impact on the overall to-do count, right? Like,
No, man. If it
you can
200, it was successful, right?
Yeah, no, because GraphQL is supposed to always return a 200, right? Like, and if there's an error,
that's the exception. If there's the errors,
yes,
those are the
right.
states.
And so that anyway, so I would always be like, hey, we did this action that might have done something with the to-do count. Maybe we just update the to-dos later on. Why not?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I do think what's on the right-hand side, I think we can improve the abstraction by just moving it to a function. Whether or not we want to encapsulate Apollo in that a function or pass to us what you're going to use to actually make the request, and then we'll handle transactionally updating the counts makes sense. But like what I see on the right-hand side is like this could and should just be a function.
What do you mean? Which part?
It doesn't make sense to me why we have a button component for this, which makes it very uncohesive, the changing of the global to-do count from actually making the request, which makes solving some of the problems challenging, So I'm kind of anticipating, instead of using to-do button component, because it's not even from the template, we don't even get anything from here either. We just pass through the click listener, we're binding all the attributes, and ARIA label, I didn't know what. I guess that's one of the things we get, but maybe.
Where is this used again? Sidebar to do widget. Where is this one used? I'm still confused. Like, what is this button?
Oh no, is this more dead code?
Oh, there's another one. Oh yeah. Oh, I want to say obviously. So we have the sidebar to do widget, which uses the to do button, which is the thing on the right side. We also have a to do button, right? We also have a to do button. So the to do widget is used in places. The to do button is used in design to do and places, sidebar places. And the other one is used in sidebar to do, which also does Apollo mutations.
Is one of them the to-do button on the to-do list, which is styled slightly differently?
Let's
Like
see where
your
this
list
is
of
used.
to-dos.
This is used in the alert sidebar and in the sidebar header. And the sidebar header, yeah, this is alert details. Okay. I don't know what that is. And alert sidebar. What?
I think we missed something. Yeah, somehow we got warped to. We got warped to a different.
What is alerts? Is that like monitor stuff?
I don't know.
Okay, let's take a step back for a second. So the reason why I have been calling this, I did the obvious thing. I said, if we're using the new nav, this update, right, like earlier when I had a look, I said, hey, when we do the update global to-do count, we just dispatch the event that causes our sidebar to refetch the to-do counts. The problem is, because this function is used optimistically beforehand, we're getting the wrong count, right? So we send like the update count request before the toggle mutation is actually gone through, right? And that's the problem. So we cannot just do that. I mean, we could do it with a timeout or whatever, but we've seen that the thing takes like 360 milliseconds. So like in production, it's hard to guess like where we, and so we're basically back to square one, where it's like, hey, where is TODO toggle used? And is it used optimistically, or is it used like after the fact when we actually know that the update went through, right? And if I recall correctly, and we search for TODO toggle, I mean, one achievement is that we already got rid of one.
Woohoo!
This is the other, which is super simple. We don't really need to talk about it because it's just for all of these, right? So like, this is constrained. We can have a look later, which is also basically just optimistic updating, because if you do this, you don't know if in the backend, you got a new one. So which others?
And I think that's good. So it's like I would leave that.
Yes.
Leave that
Yes.
as it is.
Cool.
But I liked your idea of, so at the very beginning, you talked about, you had some like view observable state.
Yes.
Managing of stuff. And I was like, I think that solves one of the crux of one of the key problems with this old behavior of the state is the text itself in the DOM. And
yes,
it could be so much more powerful if we just, okay, we've fetched the to-dos, they go into this bucket, and we'll just update that bucket. And every time that bucket updates, we will rewrite some presentation to elements across the page that might be referencing to-do count. I was like,
the good thing is we don't need to do this with the new nav anymore. And I really don't want to necessarily solve it for the old nav because I don't care, right? Because we also want to incentivize people to use the new nav. And always up to date to-do toggles might be one. I don't know.
So you're saying rather we don't want to do like HTML DOM manipulation. Is that what you're saying?
I don't want to. I don't think it's worthwhile. We could do it as a second iteration, but to be honest, given the state of the new nav and that we want to use the new nav and we want to push for the new nav, and I don't know when it's going to be the default, right? But like, Sam could speak to that. I don't think it's worthwhile to put a lot of energy into thinking of the old nav at the same time, right? My idea would be to go in and be like, hey, basically do it for the new nav, and if we want, we can later on, and if we need to, we can later on also rip out the code that updates the stuff directly, and and use the single source of truth for that as well, right? Like, so we could rip out that code and do it properly for the things.
Right. I think my concern isn't necessarily about supporting the old nav as much as we're in legacy code land.
Yes.
And if we can find the right thing to hook into, we don't have to touch as much, because it's not necessarily the new nav that I'd be concerned about. I'd be concerned about all of the other triggers of update the to-do thing, which is what you're concerned about.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we're actually lucky because the only count that's ever touched is the to-do count.
Yeah.
Really. Like, we're also touching the MR count, but already short-circuited that, right? Like, if you are looking for the thing, we only have it in 3 places. And here it's just to determine the new count. Here it's just to determine the new count. And here it's to set the new count, right?
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah, just delete it all. Delete it all.
Delete it all.
Yeah.
Sidebar to do. Oh, that's the other one that uses the other button. Interesting. So is this using it optimistically? Update to do count.
No. Everything's called sidebar. Like, which sidebar? We have so many sidebars.
We also have that is nice that we call the new nav super sidebar. So that's yet another sidebar.
Yeah, this
right? I know I'm adding to the thing I hate, but
This is the sidekick sidebar.
So, for example, in this one, right? Okay. Taking a step back. Okay. My idea was we have the new code, right? Where's the new code? Pop, 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 beep, beep, boop, beep, beep, boop, pop, beep, 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 boop, beep, 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 beep. Where's the new code? Where's the old code? There's the old code. And where is the new code? We pushed it down, way down. There's the user accounts manager. Okay. Keep bearing with me for a second. I mean, you already keep bearing with me for 50 minutes. So, right, just a second more isn't that bad. Cool. Okay. So right now the two
chips in, I might as well keep playing.
So right now the do toggle count is listened to in two places, right? And both places do the same. They just set the current count to whatever count we get from the event, right? My idea was, and we only trigger these counts in a reasonable amount of places, right? Like 3 or 4, right? So my idea was that you can see that the event has event detail count, and this is a number, and this is the absolute number we set it to. What if we do the following? We support both use cases of the optimistic update here, meaning if event detail optimistic, right? We do users to do's plus equals event details optimistic, right? Else, I mean, let's maybe just, you know, call it optimistic diff. So this would be, we would be sending not the total count in case of an optimistic update, but we would send a +1 or -1, right? So, and then in the new nav, instead of doing this, instead of setting the whole count, we consider if you send a complete count not to be optimistic, but to be, what's the pessimistic? Let's call it pessimistic, right? So in this case, we would do full fetch of all the counts in the new nav, right? While in the old one, we would we would do where's our code? Let's copy this. Jesus. And we had the code somewhere else before. Where's the sidebar to do? We would do old count, let updated count.
I think we're not, I think there's something not right here. To do toggle. Oh, wait, never mind. Sorry. Yeah, never mind. Sorry.
What do you think of this basically? So now the only thing that we would need to do is so right now we have not broken anything and the thing should behave like it did before, right? But we would have added support for optimistic diff stuff. And excuse me. And so we, for example, wouldn't even need to touch this one because this one is still pessimistic. This is like still sending a single source of truth. And in the new implementation, this would just mean, hey, instead of setting the count, we're actually doing a fetch now. While we could go and update the other cases that were optimistic. And yeah.
I think that makes sense. Let me can you describe when you need to full fetch of all the counts?
Sorry?
on line 26, we've just
Yes.
received.
Yeah, we
updated
don't need it here. We would do it in the new one. So full fetch of old accounts would be done with document. Is it dispatch event new custom event user counts fetch. And to be honest, I would probably move the event listeners over to the count manager itself, and then we don't need to do it within this view component, right?
Okay.
But yeah.
So why would we need to fetch all the user counts if I've updated to-dos?
So you're still questioning the whole behavior that, like, if I update a to-do, why would I need to update any other count, correct?
Yeah. Especially if updating to-do takes 300 milliseconds, which already seems like a long time.
So one of the reasons might actually be, and I don't know how it will play out, one of the reasons might be multiple to-dos, because you have now this funky behavior where we're doing the optimistic update, increasing or decreasing by 1, while actually you solved 5.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, let me, oops. Let me just show that to you in a, like, we are at time, overtime, whatever time.
Oh yeah, you're good.
So if someone wants to jump, all good. Wait, how does the new nav work? So let me just find the person. Reva, I want to go to Reva, and Reva wants to be impersonated. And we need GitLab or GitLab shell. That's the one. And a merge request. And here. And okay, cool. Add root. Add root. Add root. So we have the 3 to-dos, right?
Yep.
And now if that's just to be sure that just to show, right? I'm just going to the old nav to show how it behaves right now. I have my 10 to-dos. I'd be like, okay. Actually, interesting that it doesn't change anything. Mark is done, does 1. And now my to-dos are down to 6, right? Like, actually funny, because I thought that answering like a thread or whatever would actually do something.
It does decrease your to-dos, but I don't know if it toggles the
count.
Yeah, I don't know if it tells the browser that it's decreased your to-dos.
I thought it did, because there's like code, but it could also be the state of my thingy right now, right? Like that.
Could be the code you just deleted.
I have never seen it refetch the to-dos when I've responded to something.
Really?
But I also permanently have my to-dos at like, some number in the thousands. So I never see the change.
Okay, cool. Let me just double one thing that I'm a little bit unsure about. Cool. I have now 9 to-dos.
Yeah.
I click mark as done.
Is that 8?
I'm still at 8.
How interesting.
So that's like, but that's like more of a bug of the implementation, right?
Yes.
While, wait.
Oh, can you keep going? Keep going. This is it.
Yes, okay. I can mark as done as long as I have to-dos. That's funny.
That is
But the point being is like, imagine you do yes, comment, mark is done, reload, and then I would be down to 5 again. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm unsure what to do.
Yeah, I would suggest just simplifying the problem as much as possible. And it's the number going down, from my understanding, is meant to give the user a feeling that what you did was successful. You just did something that yes, brought your total to-dos down. But getting the actual number is a separate problem. That's like, this is a state syncing subscription-y kind of problem potentially. But I liked your idea of like, hey, we can handle counts and diffs for an event because we have legacy code that's already doing these in different ways. It's like, yeah, maybe that helps pipe
Simplifying the
everything
problem.
to something to something consistent. So that could be helpful.
Yeah.
It's not an easy problem. I really like, let's move the state outside of the DOM, because right now we read the number to and subtract it. Like that was what was so crazy with one of those components he shared was, I'm about to trigger the event. Let me give it the full count. By looking up the number, it's going to update, parsing that, and then subtracting it, and then giving that to the event for it to handle that element. Like that was wild. But
so to circle back, what you're saying is we should not do that at all if we can avoid it. We just should toggle events that be like, hey, you know, add +1, add -1, because to be honest, I think all of the init toggle, like, I think the all the sidebar ones, because honestly, it is just sidebar ones, right? Like all the sidebar ones and all the ones on MRs and whatnot, they always just increase or decrease by 1, right?
yeah.
While I think the one on the to-do list does like full counts, and it kind of makes sense because if I mark all is done, unmarked, right? Like,
Yep. Yeah.
and even then it could potentially be a diff, but it is easier here to set the absolute number, right? So a first step, without even touching whether we refetch our numbers, would be simplifying the whole ordeal to read the stuff in a single place, and not read the to-do count from the DOM in 7 different places.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah,
cool.
Hey,
and then I mean we can also talk to our UX designers how they want counts to behave in the future, right? Like,
yeah,
because
100%.
it is definitely a UX problem. Like, you know, I personally would be fine if the counts are more up to date, and even if I do one action and, you know, marking it to do as done and my issues go up by 3, I think that's actually not bad. UX might see it differently, or other people might see it differently.
Does that problem go away if and when we move to subscriptions, though? Because the chances are the 2 extra to-dos will have come in like in real time, so you'll be at that new level by the time you go to decrease.
Yes.
Like the chances of you decreasing at the exact time that 2 more come in's really reduced.
Yeah, I mean, if we move to subscriptions, actually it's completely decoupled, right? And I assume that if we remove subscriptions, we would just remove all of the optimistic updates, because as I was calling out earlier, and that's the question, if we don't want to do that with the new nav anyhow, just don't care about the optimistic updates, because I click way over here, I don't even can see the count, right? Like, and then I look again, and it's updated. And whether it's updated to 5, I mean, for the to-do list specifically, it's weird if this would be higher than the items shown, but, you know, another edge case. But like, if I'm in an issue, I click add to do, remove to do. Now I don't even see the number, right? Like, I don't see the number updated. It's impossible for me. I can't sit far enough to see it, both things at the same time.
You know that there's some user somewhere that's like going from one edge of the screen and like measuring, oh, okay, the numbers added up. Good. But yeah, subscriptions is an interesting thing. When we move to there, yeah, we could hopefully eliminate all of this, because then we just naturally react to subscriptions. So
what's stopping us doing subscriptions? Like,
That's a
now
great question,
is-
and maybe that's what we
I
can
to be
just
honest, like I think two things. One thing being the it's not available in GraphQL. Boom, that's number one. And the second thing, I think it's rather expensive, probably, right? Like, imagine like
We
I don't
do
know
have
where we do
GraphQL
subscriptions right now, but we would have subscriptions on every single page for the to-do counts. Like,
Yeah.
that's expensive.
We
Like
do
expensive
have-
on our end, and to be honest, it's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's. I like the idea that I do something, right? Like it refetches my counts. My browser tells my other tabs, hey, the counts are updated. And if I reload the page, I get new counts. I don't know.
Sorry to jump in, and
Yes.
I've been sort of lurking for a little while, doing
Yeah.
other things, but it's nice to have you guys in the background, you folks in the
Yes.
background. I agree. Yeah, subscription's probably quite expensive, but just a little count, like it seems a bit much. Does our current GraphQL API, if such a thing even exists, to do mutations? What I would expect from that API is you give it like, you know, mark these to-dos as done, or add these to-dos, and it returns you a count of to-dos. So that count is always correct at the time of the request. And then if that is written into an Apollo cache, and then everything reads from that cache, it would just always be correct. Like, is that not how it works?
I don't know if it's possibly mutation works that way. But I would also be surprised if it doesn't, because like counting things in the database, especially things you just changed, like is something you may not want to do too often. Because we have, in some parts of the application, we have counting problems. And I wouldn't be surprised.
It's actually in the user model, like we have user model, like the counts that we're using for the API or API user counts. Yes. Entities user counts, assigned open merge request count. These are heavily cached. And every time you update a to-do, update a merge request, or do any interaction, they are recalculated, like update to-do count cache. So they're like heavily cached.
Yeah. Well, maybe the mutation does return it. And but my biggest concern is, this is worth talking to UX about, is I think users are going to want to see the number as an indicator that my current action was successful. I'm not going to want to see it as I see the latest counts. So if I did something and it increased, I would be really confused. But if I did something and it decreased by way more, I would be really confused. So to me, I think from the user problem we're trying to solve is just let it in, trying to indicate to the user what you did was successful on the page and things have actually changed, which is a little counterintuitive with, you know, the idea of keeping things in sync. But so even if the mutation returned the right count, I don't know if we'd want to show the correct count at this time. I think I like what you were saying earlier, IPs, the idea of I just refresh the page and it's like, okay, now I get my new things. GraphQL.
But that's for example the funny thing, right? Like we already have that. Like, for example, so and my gut call is to make it just consistent, because I click close merge request here today. It decreases the number to 4, but it gets the data from the API. So if you assign me 1, it will show the correct number rather than a decreased number, right? Like I could close MMR and account not being updated, right? Like conceptually, I like this approach, and I mean, I don't care. Currently we have basically 2 approaches. We have optimistic to-do updates that have nothing to do with reality, and we have the MR thing.
Yeah, making it consistent is that's a good idea too. Doing different things differently is not ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I think-
again, right, discussion for UX probably,
Yeah.
right?
We do definitely have
you-
GraphQL subscriptions. You said something that we don't have GraphQL subscriptions. We did. That's definitely the way that we could make subscriptions, but I think the cost isn't worth it because I think there is a back-end cost to this that we'd want to be really aware of if we're doing something like this on the sidebar on every page.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
I mean, to be honest, like that's already a concern because the Foundations team, the user counts API had massive performance problems, and it is only called in one place. You know, if you open MMR, close MMR, like the thing that updates the numbers. Oh, that's thank you. Something went wrong, right? Like, and those performance problems have been solved by smarter querying, whatsoever. But even if we, for example, would start fetching the API every time you change it to do, you know, obviously this would also be expensive. But again, the underlying data, the same database things is also called, the same database queries are called when you just open a new tab, right? And so sometimes these user counts, if the API call would take 4 seconds because it's slow for whatever reason, the next page load would also be deferred by 4 seconds. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's
because
interesting.
the counts are always loaded, like they're loaded on load always. So if an API call is slow, actually the page load, the next, if you didn't do the API call, the next page load would be slow, right?
And if you have more than 100 to-dos, like, do we even need to count then?
That's the thing that, like, the thing that we do for storing, like the like, where is it, right? Like, oh geez, the thing where we store like just 57.5K, right? I think for users, if you would cap the to-dos, or if we had an API that would you allow, or if we, you know, unfortunately it's a public API, so changing it to be capped would be a breaking change. But if we had like some field that's cheaper on the database side, that would be kept at 200, which is high enough that, you know, okay, if I, you know, click mark all is done, whatever, right? Like, I don't know. But yeah, it's definitely unnecessary work that's happening for people that have thousands of to-dos that, you know, they don't care about it. Yeah.
Does the API currently return like 1,205 or
Yes.
99 plus? Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that would be a problem with the increment and decrement, because we'd have to say like 100 plus, 98 plus. I don't actually know.
I think we've run into those problems. Like
we still have that problem. Like if you decrease like from 99 plus, it will go to 99, and then if you reload the page, the problem.
That's because we're reading it from the DOM, right? And the DOM shows 99 plus, whereas the data actually has the correct number. Yes. So we fix that problem, right?
Here's a realistic possibility, and then I'll have to hop off. We get a community contributor that wants to change our to-dos from, instead of 99 plus, it's like, hey, why don't we do what we do here, where we can show I have 1.6K or 1.8K. And it's like, okay, cool, that's great. It gets merged in. But elsewhere in the code where we're reading from it, you check off your to-do, it'll go from 1.8K to 0.8K.
No, it will go from 1.8K probably to
2.8K if you've added
1 or 0, because it's getting passed as a. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if it had the K.
The question,
1.8J.
Pause. What does it do if, you know? Oh, see, it would go to 0.
Really? Oh,
yeah, pause int 18K is 1, so it would go down to 0.
Because it's doing parse. I see.
Yes.
Anywhere are we doing number? If you do number 1.8K, that's not gonna. Oh, it's a nan, obviously. Okay, there you go. All right.
Yeah, but if you pause it multiple times, you will basically get Batman, right?
You get Batman? None. Yes, this is true. Got me, man. All right. Thanks for bringing
Okay,
up
this
problem, and I'm glad we found some legacy code that we can just remove. So
yeah. Could you hop off so that foundations can just solve the problem? However, Paul wouldn't do it.
foundations team, what do they do? What's the foundations team?
We care about color comparing algorithms and to-do counts.
See. Is this why sometimes GitLab feels a little squeaky? Like I'm standing on my GitLab and doors aren't closing correctly. Is that the foundations team?
Yeah, that's the foundations team. It's like it's a problem if you build something on quicksand,
I'm joking. I'm sorry, you all. All right.
That's an integrations issue, I think.
I see. I see.
Yeah.
All right. I'll catch you later. Bye.